Hello and welcome. This video will demonstrate the installation of Ubuntu Desktop version 16.04. That's the long-term supported version as a virtual machine running inside VMware Workstation Pro for Windows. You're going to need a couple of things to get started. First, of course, is VMware Workstation Pro. You can get a free trial. I think it's a 30-day trial. Visit the URL here shown on the screen. You'll trade a little bit of personal information. You can download the software and then get a key. The key can be registered then with purchase of the software if you decide that you like it. If you're affiliated with a university or some other academic institution, be sure to check. There are significant academic discounts available if you decide to purchase the full version after running the trial. The other thing, of course, you need is the version of Ubuntu. You need the ISO file. Let's go to ubuntu.com. The ISO is an image of the CD. You don't actually need a CD. There's a way to run the ISO file in VMware Workstation. We'll show you how to do that in just a second. Visit ubuntu.com. They changed the site around, so the actual location of the download can vary from time to time. Here it's hiding, I think, under the download. You can go to desktop. Another place to look for it, if it's not appearing up here right at the top, is to go down to the bottom. There's a desktop link usually down at the bottom somewhere. When you get there, you can go to this download Ubuntu. Let's take a minute before we hit that download link, look at the system requirements. Ubuntu Desktop itself is currently requiring 2 gigabytes of system memory. You're actually going to need more than that because you're not only going to be running the desktop, but you need to be running the virtualization software, the VMware Workstation. So I'm going to suggest that you probably want at least 4 gigabytes of system memory in your PC. The rest of this, 25 gigabytes free hard drive space, and of course you need some room for the VMware Workstation. You don't need a DV drive. We need the ISO file, so you don't need to worry about a DV drive or USB port. Internet access is, I would say, not only helpful, but you really do need to be hooked up to the internet while you're trying to install it because it's going to go grab update files and so on during the installation. So take a look at that. Then go ahead and hit download. You're not quite through the ringer yet. They are going to ask you some questions. They're also going to hit you up for a donation. You can donate if you like, but note that there is this link here, not now, take me to the download. You can go ahead and hit that and the download will start. I'd recommend you do that, and then if you like it, you can certainly make a donation. I'm not going to show you that link. I've already downloaded the software myself. So go ahead and click on this link now. Just be advised that this is a really large file. I think it's up to almost a gig and a half. And a word of caution, your computer may be loaded with software that will try to open that file when it downloads. You should decline that. We're going to install that using the VMware application. So if your computer tries to open that, just decline that. Okay, so now that we have the two downloads that we need, we have the VMware Workstation installed, and we have the Ubuntu ISO file saved away on our desktop somewhere. We're pretty much ready to go. So with the Workstation Pro installed, this is what it looks like when you load it up for the first time. 2 ways to create a virtual machine. You can click on this tab here on the home screen. You can also go File, New Virtual Machine. Either one is fine. We're going to use the wizard approach or the easy install approach for the desktop. When we run through a server install, we go through a custom install that's a little bit more involved. Fortunately for desktop, this is a very easy way to go. So begin by checking to make sure that typical is the default is checked here. Go ahead and click next. And then what we're going to do, we want this installer disk image file. There's a couple of options: installer disk image file, or I will install the operating system later. We want to make sure that installer disk image file is checked, and then you're going to need to browse. This is defaulting for me because I've already done this a couple of times, but you're going to need to browse. Go to the place on your computer wherever you saved off that ISO file you just downloaded. Go ahead and check that. It's the Ubuntu 16.04 desktop AMD64.iso file. There may be a rev number after the 16.04, like 16.04.01 or .02. That's fine. Go ahead and click that to open it. And then you should see that this operating system will use easy install, that it's identified the Ubuntu 64-bit 16.04 detected. And then when that's all set, go ahead and click Next. It's going to ask for some installation parameters here, the username and password, in order to take care of that during the automated installation. I recommend something easy. There's little security risk on a virtual machine running on your desktop in a home network. If you want to use something more complex, that's certainly up to you. I'm going to use user1 for username and password, for username, and then password for password. Word to the wise, write it down. If you don't use something that's very easy to remember, if you get to the end of the installation and try to log in and then you've forgotten it or you got it wrong, it's going to be easier just to go back and reinstall than to try to fix it at that point. So just a word to the wise. And when you've entered that, go ahead and click Next. It's asking for a virtual machine name. I'm going to use something simple. I'm going to check Ubuntu 16.04 for the version, D for desktop. Note what it's trying to do down below under location. It's selecting location on your drive and using this virtual machine name to create the directory. So you want to use something for a virtual machine name that's compatible with a directory file name. And so for that reason, I would recommend something straightforward and simple up here. No fancy characters, things like that, something straightforward and simple. If you want to place this on a location on your computer, you can, of course, browse. You can also put this on a flash drive. We'll get to some size limitations in the next screen, I think. So when you've got that set, click Next. Now, here's where we come up with the size limitations. Think about this for a second. It defaults to 20 gigabytes for a maximum disk size. So this is as big as your virtual machine will get. For practice machines, if you're just using this to learn desktop, then this is plenty big enough. If you plan on loading up a bunch of video files or something, I suppose you can make it bigger. You probably don't want to go smaller. It will start smaller, and this is the size it can grow to, so make sure you understand that. You have a couple of choices about how to store the file. You can store the virtual disk as a single file. There is a slight performance benefit to doing that. The virtual machine will run a little bit faster. It's not a huge benefit, but depending on what you're going to be doing with it, you could check that box. It defaults to splitting the virtual disk into multiple files. Now, if you're going to be putting this on a flash drive, you almost have to do it that way because a flash drive won't support single large files because of the way their file allocation table is created and stored. So if you're going to put it on a flash drive, you almost have to. The other advantage is that it does make it easier if you need to move this to maybe another computer, another hard drive. Maybe you're taking it back and forth from school to home, something or other like that. So then you want to split the virtual disk into multiple files, and that's what I recommend. So on the next screen, then, we see a summary. For the most part, you can leave this alone. If you're an expert, there's a couple of things you could change. There's one thing that you might want to consider changing. especially if you have plenty of memory, random access memory. You can click Customize here, and then take a look at the memory, and you might bump this up from 1 gigabyte to 2 gigabytes, and that would be 2048. So if you have 4 gigabytes or more on your computer, then you might want to consider bumping this up to 2 gigabytes. That'll make your virtual machine run a little bit more efficiently. So that's about the only thing I'd recommend changing. If you're an expert, the network adapter, you can change that to bridge mode. That would give your virtual machine an IP address separate from your host computer. There are some techie expert reasons for doing that, maybe. Nevertheless, for installation, I'd probably leave that at NAT just to make sure you connect to the computer the first time. And then there's some other things you can change around in here, but for experts. But the only thing I would change, I think, right off the bat would be memory. And of course, you could always leave it alone for the installation and change that at a later time. So when you're done with that, go ahead and click Finish. When I click Finish here, the installation will begin. Now, a couple of comments. As the installation begins, this is an active terminal window. You can click in it and issue commands. Not that I would do that, but I mentioned that. Let me resize the screen here to get it into the recording. I mentioned that because if you do happen to click in here, it's possible that this area in here will capture your mouse cursor and it'll disappear. And if you check this area down here, occasionally this will flash the message that to recapture your mouse cursor so you have it back, you need to hit the Control and Alt key at the same time, and that will recover your mouse cursor. This process will take, depending on your computer and network connection and a few other things, could take a half an hour or longer. I'm going to pause the installation, but also let you know that there are some messages that go through here. You may want to watch this. It explains a few things about the Ubuntu desktop. So I will pause the recording now and come back when it's done, and we're back to something interesting. And we'll carry on with just a brief overview of the desktop to get you started. So see you on the flip side. So the installation is completed. Let me first talk about a couple of these icons here in VMware in the section up here. The one on the left closes and opens library window. As you add virtual machines, they appear in this library. You can open and close that here. This gives you more room. Let me resize this now. Similarly, there's a status bar, status window at the bottom here. We can open and close that. Let me now rearrange this. And finally, this icon here puts the virtual machine in full screen mode. And that's probably what you're going to want to do. I won't demonstrate that because of the way I'm recording the video for you. But when you click this, the virtual machine will go into full screen mode. The window will resize, and then it'll look like your virtual machine has taken over your desktop. What happens then is that this menu bar here, this entire menu bar, will auto hide at the top of the screen. And then to get out of that, simply take your mouse cursor, put it up at the top of the screen. This menu bar will reappear, and you can click on the full screen mode icon to exit full screen mode and get your regular desktop back. So I'm not going to demonstrate that, as I say, because of the way I'm recording the screen, but you're probably going to want to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and log in here with the password that we set when we created. And let me log in. We'll give it a second for the screen to appear. and then I'll adjust so that we can see what's going on for purposes of the screen movie. All right, I've adjusted this display about as close as I can to the screen movie dimension, so we'll work with that for a little while. This is the Ubuntu 16.04 desktop. This is sometimes called Unity, I believe. This is the launcher over here. This is similar to the quick launch function you see on Windows down at the bottom, or if you're familiar with the Mac, they also have a launcher application also down at the bottom. In Ubuntu, this is over here on the side. Here you have quick launch applications that function. If you don't like these, you can right-click on them, unlock them from the launcher. That doesn't delete them. It just removes them from the quick launch. At the very bottom, let me move this up slightly so that you can see that. We have the trash bin, much like the one on Windows and Macintosh. Position this down a little bit. We have system setting, and these are what, as I say, comes with the desktop as it installs. You can change these around. So system setting is much like control panel in Windows, similar function on the Macintosh. So we can look at the screen appearance if we wanted to change the desktop, for example. That's easy enough to do. I'll leave it at that for the time being. We have a link to Amazon. I don't know how much they paid for that, but we can certainly get rid of that. Here we have Ubuntu software. This is the software installation center. It will allow you to install software. Let me click on this. Sometimes you have to reboot once or twice before this loads. All right, there we go. So we can see that we have some applications here. We can take a look at installed applications. There's actually a better way to look at the installed applications. But if you wanted to remove them, this is the place that you would need to go. You can look at all applications that are available. And there are a few different ways that you can go about this. You could look at them by categories, for example. So if you wanted to look at games, you could look at, for example, arcade games. For most of these, it's a matter of looking at them, and then if you want to install them, you would go to the application and click the install button, and then it's pretty much automated in most cases. So I'd recommend you try to install a few applications just to see how that works. So it comes with 3 applications that are compatible with Microsoft Office: a writer, a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint-like application. If we were to, for example, open the writer, we can type a few things in here. I'm going to save a document and show you something else you can do with that in just a second. They can go File, Save, Save to Documents, and we can give that a name. Gonna need to pull that up a little bit. Okay, and then we can push that back down a little bit, close that. Here in Ubuntu, the open, close, and maximize, minimize buttons are here in the top left. Here's your link, of course, to Firefox. Here's your file manager, so you can see your folders in your home. You can see that we've got the My document that we just saved here. And of course, this is the file finder. Let's take a quick look at that. Here it shows some applications. We can look, and again, let me reposition this. I apologize, but it doesn't quite line up with the dimensions of my screen movie. So let me pull up so we can look down at the bottom. If I go down here to the second icon on the bottom, we can see, again, an alternative way to look at what's installed. And scroll down here. There's an application in particular that I would like you to look at. and that's terminal as we go down here, and these are in alphabetical order. System monitor, terminal is over here. This gets you to the command prompt. Any application that you see here in the Finder, you can pull over here and attach to the launcher. And I'd recommend that you do that with terminal. In Linux, more than in Windows certainly, and to a lesser extent more than Mac. Number of operations do need to be executed at what we call the command line. So let me open a terminal window. And you can see what that looks like. Here we just issue commands at the so-called command prompt. For example, this is a directory command. So if I went cd documents, that changes to the documents directory. Note that in Linux, unlike Windows, everything is case sensitive. So if I hadn't capitalized the D for documents, it wouldn't have found our directory. And now I can do a directory again, and you can see that my document is there from the document that we created in the word processor. And of course, there are different things that you can do with that if you're interested in learning the command line, and some of you I know will be. Then you can play around with these. Probably wasn't a good idea to put a space in there, but we can do and that actually opens that up. It looks like a garbled mess there because my document is not a pure text document, so that has all the formatting and all the other stuff in there. But anyway, that did open it up. Let's see what we can see in there that's anything of interest. Probably not. We'd have to tease that apart. Anyway, so that's the terminal. A few things you can do with a terminal. Sure, we want to close that. So there you go with the desktop. So I would play around with this a little bit. I would perhaps take the opportunity to learn a few Linux commands at the command line, play around with the Firefox web browser, open up the Ubuntu software store, add a few programs, create some documents with the Office applications, and in general have fun and play around with it. Now, when you're ready, again, let me position the window. When you're ready, you can close this down in a couple of ways. First of all, at the very top right, this icon here will take you to a shutdown menu. You can shut this down or restart it if you want to here. That will shut it down. Let me power on the machine again to show you an alternative thing that you can do. By the way, you may occasionally see these messages. This is a message that looks like an error message, but it's not. It says cannot connect the virtual device SATA 0:1 because no corresponding device is available on the host. That really is just telling you that you don't have a SATA 1 drive, and then it's asking you if you want to try to connect it. Every time you power it on, if you don't have one, obviously you don't want to try to connect it. So the answer would probably be no, because you don't have one, so you don't want to try to power it on. If you answer no to this, then you'll never see that message again. And then it says, warning, the virtual device SATA 1 will start disconnected. That's really not a warning. You don't have one, so you don't care about it. Most of you will get that message because you don't have a SATA 1 drive. So here we are. Again, I'll enter the password. And it will boot up. All right, so the alternative way to shut down is using VMware. Let me reposition the screen so that you can see our VMware menu. And we can suspend the guest. And what that does is that basically just freezes the virtual machine in whatever its current state is. So just to document what's going on, suppose I had this spreadsheet open. And just so that you believe it's open, we'll put some figures in here. So we'll pretend that's an open spreadsheet. And now when I pause this machine or suspend it, it will literally suspend this virtual machine in its state. And then when I resume it, it will resume the machine in whatever state it was. So, and that saves you a little bit of time booting the machine up, although this one's booting fairly quickly. There's one more function that I'd like to point out with virtual machines that's pretty handy, and that is the snapshot function. The snapshot function is a way of backing up the virtual machine. So if I take a snapshot, and I can give the snapshot a name or just call it snapshot 1 here, give it a description. And I'm calling this one middle of spreadsheet, but it could be before I install something or before I do an update. Suppose there's a big update to the software that's coming along, and it's a good idea to always do a snapshot in case the update messes something up. So you'll take a snapshot, and that's a backup, is the easiest way to say it. So if something happens during the software update, then you can restore the snapshot, and it will restore your virtual machine to the state it was at the time that you took the snapshot. So I think that's about all I have to say about that. That shows you the installation, a couple of features of the desktop, and a couple of features of VMware. Hope this has been helpful to you. The best way to learn this and to become familiar with it is to simply dive in there. You can't really hurt it, especially if you take a snapshot. Even if you mess up the virtual machine, then you can recover that. And there really isn't any way that doing anything in the virtual machine can do anything at all to your host computer. So you should be adventurous and playful and have at it. I think you'll find that whether you're a Mac user or a Windows user, you're going to find that the Linux desktop works pretty similarly to what you're already used to. So have fun, play, and thank you for watching.